Thank you everyone for attending today's launch of the Investor Guide. To those who I personally invited, you'll know how excited and proud we are of the launch of the Green Quarter's Investor Insight Guide. Today we will have Elliot from ONU. Recently Berkeley has launched the ONU Rate Reducer Scheme. So again, a lot of you guys are familiar with the scheme, but also have a lot of questions since the launch. So Elliot will be here to answer all questions, and we'll also have Heron. Fiona from Heron is also here to talk through any other additional questions in regards to the lenders that we might have. And then of course, we have Sandra from Dataloft. Dataloft was obviously quite key in regards to preparing all the information that made up the guide. So we're really lucky to have Sandra here today to talk us through all the key stats and research that Dataloft has put together to make the Investor Guide.
I'm Sandra Jones, Managing Director of Dataloft. We're a part of PriceHubble, which is a global technology business that produces or provides data and analytics on housing markets across the world. And in the UK, we have a team of economists and analysts who interpret and write about those housing markets and visualise the data. And we work with developers, investors and agents right through the process, from planning through to marketing strategy. And we work with Berkeley, and we worked on the Investor Guide, which you all have a copy of. And the slides I'm going to share with you today, the stats I'm going to share with you, are all in the Investor Guide. So Berkeley asked us to review the sales proposition at the Green Quarter from the perspective of a potential buyer, and consider what makes it an attractive place to live and to invest. So not based on opinion, but based on hard facts, and that's what we can bring to the party. And our approach is to work through this checklist of ingredients that make a place attractive to live and invest. So the 6 key themes, starting with regeneration. It's one of the surest ways to guarantee value growth in housing markets when the whole area is uplifted by capital investment. And that might be from public, often from public sources, and then the private money follows in. That might include new homes, town centre improvement, new amenity spaces, transport infrastructure, and so on. What the planners would call material change in an area. So when you have material change, when you go back to a place and it feels very different, then we associate that very strongly with value growth. It's a long process. It can happen over many years, maybe decades, but there are many examples across London that you'll all be familiar with. In the case of that Southall, it was designated an opportunity area back in 2011 by the GLA, and that gives it a real leg up on that regeneration journey. So for Southall, there was 14.5 million allocated to improve the town centre and the station. And the GLA in designating opportunity area recognised potential for 9,000 new homes within this opportunity area. And at this point in time, Green Quarter has planning consent to deliver 3,750 new homes on this 88-acre site. So it's a huge opportunity for Berkeley to sort of own the way that this area is transformed, and to have that kind of stewardship role, which is very tried and tested for Berkeley. They're very much one of the leading exponents of regeneration and stewardship and so on, and sort of leaving a legacy on an area. But anyway, I promised you some facts, so here we go. We've taken this research from Savills. I think someone's here from Savills, aren't they? Yeah, hi. From your research team, who looked at regeneration over 7 years. They took a 7-year period and they looked at the price growth in a regeneration or in an opportunity area averaging 7.1% per annum. And that compared with the price growth over Greater London as a whole of 4% per annum. So there's that sort of 3% premium, and that is very much consistent with our research at Dataloft. We've consistently found a 3% outperformance in regeneration areas compared to their sort of wider surrounding area. And I also said that one of the ingredients we look for is sort of track record, and the developer, the brand, the track record. And Berkeley certainly has that. And for instance, we can show that Berkeley has outperformance on prices of up to, not outperformance, but has shown price growth on its regeneration projects of up to 9.2%. That stat is taken from their scheme at Woodbury Down, where measured over a 10-year period, there was a price performance of around 9% per annum. But similar story at Kidbrooke Village, and my personal favourite actually, which is the Royal Arsenal down at Woolwich. I just think that is just the most beautiful part of London now. So yeah, Berkeley has the track record. It's seen as a leading exponent. As I said, still early in the process at Green Quarter, but local agents here, Benham & Reeves, I don't know if anyone's here from there, but yeah, hi, are also present on the site. So your Benham & Reeves have reported that in 2 years at Green Quarter, we've seen 15% price growth. And it is, you can see, it's very early in the process. There's an awful lot more to come in this area. So now we're sort of stray into our second ingredient, which is really what's happened in the local market. So what are the trends? So we're looking at those long-term price growth trends in regeneration, and then we're looking at more sort of what are the local market conditions. And I think we've talked about price growth, but the other element of that, of course, is rental growth, or what's happening in the rental market. I'm quite sure you're all aware, and you don't need me to tell you about the acute pressures in the rental market in London and what that's doing to rental values. But we looked at it in a slightly different way here, and we looked at the average distance that renters are moving into the Green Quarter, and it's averaging 9 miles, which for London is a long distance. So it's proving that we're starting to see that real sort of centre of gravity, that real attraction into this area, people prepared to move long distances, and that is all about the connectivity story, which I'll come on to. We have about 30% of all households in London living in the private rental sector, 3 million households, growing rapidly. And anyway, I say I don't need to tell you what are the pressures in the rental markets at the moment and what that's doing to rental growth. But as I say, I think the story we really want to tell here, and the biggest story about this area, is about connectivity and the arrival of the Elizabeth line, and that is utterly transformative. For anywhere along the Elizabeth line has been transformed, and Southall is no exception. It's part of that story. This is just journey times. Journey times on the Elizabeth line. So I travelled here this morning from Bond Street. It just goes by in a flash. So it's just over 15 minutes from Bond Street to here, and it's, you know, fabulous trains. It's also airy and spacious, and it's a great journey. You can be in Paddington in less than 15 minutes. You can be in Canary Wharf in half an hour. I mean, it is quite phenomenal how that has transformed the sort of geography of London. And Heathrow, 10 minutes to Heathrow and just 2 stops on that Elizabeth line. And it's quite easy. I think Heathrow's always been a big part of London's story, and it's sort of easy to take for granted that we have this incredible amenity so close, you know, for London. And I think just some stats there. You can access 85 countries directly from Heathrow Airport, and again, I imagine you've used these stats over and over again in the work you do, but 28 of the world's top 29 cities, as ranked by GDP, can be accessed directly by flights from Heathrow. It is just the most phenomenal place. And the other aspect of it is that it's employs, or it creates employment for 76,000 people, and that's an awful lot that translates into a lot of demand in the local economy and for housing. We also looked at employment, people who are renting here, what sectors they're employed in, and we found the whole cross-section of high-paid employment in central London: tech, media, fintech, insurance and banking, professional services, and concentrations of workplace destinations: Canary Wharf, Farringdon, as well as what's right on the doorstep here, really, Stockley Park and all the employment that's there. 31% of all London's professional, scientific and technical jobs, that's basically professional services sector, 31% of all London's professional services jobs are accessible from this site within 45 minutes. Many of them within 30 minutes, within even 20 minutes, but if they're not actually on the Elizabeth line, then it's, you know, it's change and another journey. So certainly within 45 minutes, a third of all the professional jobs, and actually nearly 40% of the jobs in transport, and nearly 40%, or between 37% of all the tech employment in London is within that timescale. So again, I don't need to remind you about those major employers in London that can be accessed so easily from here, but we're talking Google, Facebook, I don't know, Goldman Sachs, HSBC, just the list is endless. And the Elizabeth line just brings them all so much closer. It also brings London's top universities within a much shorter journey time, and I think that's going to be quite critical when we understand who is going to ultimately be living in this area. London has 3 outstanding global ranked universities, UCL, LSE and Imperial, and they all accessible within between 30 and 40 minutes along the Elizabeth line. So between them, there are 80,000 students in those 3 universities alone, and more than half of them are from overseas. And we know that overseas students are very often highly affluent and with big accommodation budgets, often even unlimited accommodation budgets, and willing to pay 6 months or a year up front in rent. So again, really important part of what we expect to see to be the target market or the demand for properties in this location. And by the way, Imperial College is building a new campus in West London, so actually that one will be much closer to here as well, so top universities. When you look in the investor guide, you'll see that we've also talked about many other universities which are in West London as well, but I just wanted to focus on those 3 because they are never outside the top 10 global universities. So they're enormous and they're growing and they're very flourishing institutions, shall we say. So that's all tied to this connectivity story. It's access to employment, access to the amenities of central London, and access to the universities. But we also want to look, if we go back to that slide I showed you first with our sort of 6 pillars, also want to think about local amenities, because clearly that's also a very big part of what makes a location attractive to live and invest in. So starting with primary schools, we have within 15 minutes travel time of the Green Quarter, we've got 48 primary schools, and 4 of those are rated outstanding. We've got 12 secondary schools, and 5 of those are rated outstanding, and we've got 3 independent schools, and that's just within a 15-minute journey time. If we went beyond that, we'd find many more. So that's local. That's one component of local amenity. Another component, or another increasingly important component of local amenity, is access to nature. And I think if you've had even a cursory look at the site, you'll see that, or at the plan downstairs, you'll see how much green space is going to be created within the development, but then also with the park, or the Minette Country Park next door. So just some statistics, which again are all in the investor guide, but I think are particularly impressive. 126 acres of parks and gardens in Southall. We've got a 10-mile cycleway, quiet way cycle, so along the canal, which runs on the edge of the site, which takes you all the way into central London. We've got 2,500 new trees being planted. A kilometre of canal frontage just within the Green Quarter, and 65% of all homes will overlook water or open space, which is just an amazing claim to be able to make for any development, and 50% of the site being open green space. So yeah, I mean, you'll all know how much attention now is being given to biodiversity and to access to nature. So I think this site can really excels on that. And we do a lot of survey work asking them what are their priorities, what makes them choose a place to live, and education, nature, always important. But it's also access to retail and leisure facilities in the local area. So that's something that Berkeley is very aware of, and it's early stages of development here, but I think a lot of the story about investing in this location is what's here today, and then the vision of what is to come. So the plan is to weave local amenities throughout the site. In Parkside Yard, we've got open space, we've got play areas, we've got co-worker spaces, a screening room, a gym, a concierge. That's here now, but the vision for what will be here as the development matures is, I think, what is particularly appealing to if you're buying into this development at this point in its evolution. So in terms of scheme design, the other statistic I wanted to emphasise was, because we all know working from home has transformed the way that we use the places we live, the way we use our homes, and put a lot of pressures on space in homes. So it was really great to find that our analysts found that the units here, the homes here at Green Quarter, have 17% more floor space than homes in neighbouring Ealing, and 5% more than if we measured right across Greater London, the London average. And that means a lot. That translates into 80 square feet in a one-bedroom apartment, which, 8 by 10, that is more than enough space for a desk and a chair and a bit of storage. And that really does change the way people can use their homes. Incredibly important, and also, of course, important for students who study from home. And I'm going to hand over to Nicole.
So everyone now, if you sort of load up your interactives, you'll see that everyone now has access to the Why Buy on the Green Quarters interactive Miller application. While it loads, Why Buy is pretty much made of lots of information that we pull together as a team, which focuses on why people are buying at the Green Quarter. So it covers everything from regeneration, the connectivity. It's sort of the main USPs that we feel that, why people invest in both the self-use and sort of investors alike. I think it's loaded now. Here we go. So I'll just literally give you a quick intro to the Why Buy. Like I said, it's more. So you still have the sort of main interactive still in the background, so all the detail about the wider area, the neighbourhoods and everything like that. But the Why Buy is what we've sort of called it internally is a bit of an elevator pitch, because like I said, it sort of summarises the key USPs of the Green Quarter currently. So again, you'll sort of see some of the main points at the bottom here. This is pretty much the introduction page. But like I said, it's all about why people are buying. And obviously the first draw is always connectivity. We know the Elizabeth line has been increasing house prices for years, so we're very lucky to have the Southall Elizabeth line on our doorstep. That follows on with a bit of research taken from the Data Loft and of course our investor guide talking about the employees, and again we feel that this is a very strong story when talking to investors and end users alike. Regeneration, again we can talk Berkeley portfolio vibe, we can talk local area. Regeneration is probably one of the biggest draws at the moment for the Green Quarter, and obviously for years to come we're developing currently 3,750 homes, so I'm sure that number will grow with time, so we sort of form part of that sort of Southall regeneration story. And then, of course, our amenities existing, such as Parkside Yard, which I know Sandra's touched on, sort of the elements that are coming soon, like the swimming pool. And then that ties us nicely into sort of the community element as well. We feel that that's probably one of the key draws currently now that Parkside Yards is now sort of active and live. You can have a coffee. I'm sure everyone here has had a coffee there and a pastry or had a pizza down at the pizza van. So again, that's definitely something that we like to focus on. And of course the green space, so nature pretty much underpins everything we do here, from everything from our marketing suite to our homes. So again, we felt that this was probably one of, again, a really strong sort of topic of conversation, even tying back to a lot of the Data Loft information as well. And of course the future, what's to come on next? Again, for us as a team, to being able to confidently present, our courtyard, our newest neighbourhood, where the commercial will be based. I think that's, again, something to really tie in nicely when you are doing that quick overview, elevator style pitch. So hopefully, we've hopefully done a good job in summarising, like I said, some of the key sort of points why people are buying here. And like I said, everyone in this room will now have access to this additional feature of the interactive. So it's now all live along with the investor guide. So I'm going to pass it over to Elliot.
Well, thanks everyone for your time. So we've heard a lot about why this is such a great place for people to buy. I guess what Own New does is trying to make it easier for them to buy with mortgages. So specifically, Own New Rate Reducer is a product that we launched just over 2 weeks ago. And that is about basically solving people's problems about high cost of living, high interest rate environment by making cheaper mortgages. And it's really as simple as that. So I could have walked off now, but I'll talk a bit more about what we're doing. So as I said, Own New Rate Reducer is just about selling more homes, making it easier for people to buy with cheaper mortgages. We launched Own New Rate Reducer a couple of weeks ago, a bit longer than that. A couple of big high street lenders, so Halifax, biggest lender in the country, on board, and Virgin Money as well. Another lender came on board, Furness Building Society, just a couple of days ago, and we've got more coming on board in time. More and more mortgages available for people, and importantly, cheap mortgages. Basically what Own New does is we work as a platform, really sitting in between developers one side and lenders the other side, and our only job is to make better mortgages for people buying these properties, make it easier for people to buy these properties. So as I described, what we look to do is look at what people's problems are, what's stopping people from buying today. In a lot of the data we see, it's about high cost of living, monthly costs, high interest rates, all of that stuff. So very simply, easy way to solve that problem, cheap mortgages. So that's what Own New Rate Reducer does. It does that in quite a simple way. So obviously developers like Berkeley often try and help people out with incentives, allowed to give up to a 5% incentive to people disclosed in the UK finance form, and that can be to help people in different ways. So today, if someone's short of a deposit, they can help with deposit contribution. If someone's struggling with a stamp duty payment, they can help pay the stamp duty. This is just a different way to use that same incentive. So rather than doing those things, it's funneled into the mortgage, which is what we do with the lenders, and it effectively prepays the lender's interest so that the lender can offer a reduced interest rate mortgage to the buyers. So problem is high interest rate environment, solution is cheaper mortgages for people buying these properties. Really important point, and looking at Fiona, this is only available through panel mortgage brokers. What's really important is that the advice process up front is the right advice given in the right way. So it's only available through people who are very experienced in new build, know the developers, understand how incentives are used, and can therefore deliver the right advice to the buyers. So please, anyone who's in the room, works on a site or talking to people on site, please refer people over to the advisors, because they're the ones who are best placed to talk about what the best option is for these people. The incentives then. So as I said, developers are allowed to give up to a 5% incentive, and this can be plot by plot for a developer. So there are two ranges that the lenders have launched at the minute. There's one range which assumes a 5% incentive, and another range that assumes a 3% incentive. So that gives a bit of optionality. If the developer's looking to give 5% on a particular plot, then great, someone can get a really cheap mortgage. If they're only looking to give 3, then they can get a cheap mortgage, but less so. Or if they're looking to give 5, someone could take 2 for a new kitchen, for example, and then 3 for a cheap mortgage. So it just gives some more options around that. We're looking to bring some more options with more lenders when they come on board, but currently there are those 2 available. So hopefully that's enough for now. Interest rates then. Virgin Money has an interest rate on the market today at 0.99%. So obviously a hell of a lot cheaper than anything else on the market, a real benefit to people. And then interest rates go up to about 3.88%, which is the highest interest rate one of our lenders has. It depends what deposit someone has as to what that interest rate is, but basically the incentive payment is basically spread over the initial term of the mortgage. So in that case, it's spread over the 2-year fixed term, so that someone can get a cheaper interest rate for the length of the initial term of that mortgage. In terms of deposits that people need, on apartments, 90% LTV generally, so someone will need a 10% deposit. We had a lender start Furness Building Society on Monday. They go up to 95, but just on houses. So if there are some houses around, then that's available too. I'll talk a bit more about exactly how the incentive is used. So here's an example. This assumes a 5% incentive, which is one of the ranges the lenders have. If you look at the table on the left, you'll see the different LTVs that people have, so depending on their deposit. The first row there is the lender's actual interest rate today without this in place. You can see if someone's getting a 60% LTV mortgage, that interest rate will be 5.14%. Using this mechanism, that interest rate can become 0.94%. So as I mentioned, Virgin has a product on the market at 0.99% at the minute for those people. It changes according to LTV, the interest rate. What's really important is the benefit to the person is delivered in two ways. The first is they get lower monthly payments. So you see in that example, based on a house price of 780k, 35-year term mortgage, someone is saving more than £1,000 every month on their mortgage payments, which is great. Not only that though, they also pay back more in capital over that 2-year period or 5-year period, which is really important. So the incentive is basically given in two benefits. One is lower monthly payments, and then the second is paying back more capital. So at the end of those 2 years, they end up in a better capital position on their mortgage than they otherwise would have done. So, you know, a couple of really big benefits for people, we think. What we're seeing early days, it's only 2.5 weeks old now, rate reducer, but this is really driving a hell of a lot of volume to those developers who are marketing it. Great to see that volume come on site, and then they need to be referred to the broker who can determine what the best way is to you know, what the best outcome is for that person. So benefits, I won't bore you with a lot of this because it's in the numbers really, the benefit, but some more holistic benefits. Obviously for the buyer, they get a lower cost mortgage. You know, what's the downside? Reduced interest rate, reduced monthly payments, more cash in their pocket every month. They can do what they want with that, invest it if they want to, keep it for something else if they want to. But not only that, they also pay back more in their capital on their mortgage as well, so they end up in a better position at the end of term. It's just a more controlled way, it's a contractual way to deliver the incentive. Someone is actually signing up to a mortgage with Virgin Money at 0.99%. That's you know, legally what they're doing, so it's a contractual benefit. We also think this opens the market to movers, and in the early data that we're seeing at the minute, there's quite a few movers. So people who've been on a low interest rate for the last 3, 4, 5 years, about to move on to the new interest rate environment, higher interest rate. Well, you know, developers can say, come buy one of our places and you can stay on a lower interest rate for a bit longer. So we're seeing that as quite an attractive solution for a lot of people as well. And then as far as the developer is concerned, obviously this is a great way to show that you're helping with monthly costs, which there's not really a clean way for a developer to do that at the minute. And that seems to be a lot of people's problems. Gives the developer a big advantage over second-hand. So if second-hand is the biggest competitor, then you know, these are only available on new build. That's a really key point. For the brokers on their sourcing systems where they source mortgages, these mortgages come right at the top and they're all new build mortgages. So that's a really important point, I think. And then last but definitely not least, we think this is purpose-led. It's the right advice for a lot of people. It's the right outcome for a lot of people as well. You know, lower monthly payments, more capital repaid on their mortgage. You know, it's a good story for them. So I think this is the last side, really. Just the important message to customers. You know, rate reducer is about lower monthly payments. It's really simple, nothing more complex than that. It's a simple mortgage. It's just a normal mortgage. The only difference is it's cheaper. in the monthly payments. And then finally, if they want one of these, it has to be advised. So please, people on site, send people to the brokers so that they can do their job and figure out what the best solution is for that person. If it's one of these, then great. If it isn't, then that's cool as well. The important thing is the person gets the right solution, and that can be delivered through the panel brokers.
Thank you, Elliot. Thank you all for coming, both in person and online. It was great to have you all attend the launch of the Investor Guide. As mentioned, we're really excited. I think this is such a beneficial sales tool to sort of really push the investment opportunities here at the Green Quarter. Any further questions, any tours of the homes, feel free to get in touch with myself or the sales team. Thank you.